Hi Aquans. So today we'll do a full course on the version 5 of Pinescript. So Tradingview Pinescript has created a new version 5, and I've looked through YouTube and I couldn't find a single video about it because it's quite new and we need to update ourselves to the newer versions, because after a while they might release version 6 and that'll be similar to version 5 and not similar to version 4. So it's very good for you guys to watch this video, get to understand how the game has slightly changed, the new developments in the Pinescript, so you can code better. Most of the new indicators now are all written in version 5 by Tradingview, so it'll be really good for you guys to adapt to this version 5. So I'll just go through the basics from the beginning till the end, so we'll discuss it from the basics. So anybody who's new to programming or who is not very efficient in Pinescript, they all can learn. But if you know some of the factors that I'm discussing, some of the variables that I'm discussing, you can keep on moving forward. So we'll just start with the basics operators. So when you open a new blank indicator, this is what you get. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to write a equals b, a equals 5, and then let's plot a. So we'll just save it as my script, and then let's add it to the chart. So what you see is you can get 5 in a single line here. So let's say I want to change a equals b equals a plus 1. So that plus sign adds the value of a to 1. So now if I plot b, what I'll be getting is 6 instead of 5, because now I'm plotting b. Now let's do another thing. Let's make a change to a. So a is 5 here. Now I want to make a to something else. So let's say a equals 6 now. Now the problem is, now if I do this, there will be an error because a is already defined. So what you should do is you need to have a colon here and then equal to. So basically, whenever you define a before and you want to make a change, you need to use the colon and equal to. So now when I add it to the chart, now a becomes 7 because 6 plus 1 equals 7. So whenever there's a change, when you plot it, the a has to be put colon and equal to. So just like that, you can do a is multiplied and divided by. All these things can be added to the some of the most common operators. So now you get 18 because 6 multiplied by 3 equals 18. So I'm going to close some of these. So plot is a function that's available in Tradingview. So when you put plot here b, you basically get the graph being put there. So that's for the simple operators of plus or equal to. Now let's take a bit further. I'll teach you something else now. So that's called let's declare b equals 5, and then I'm going to do something called a plus equals b. So now what this means is basically, let's do a comment here, it's basically a equals a plus b, but we can write it in a very short code, which is a plus equals b. So basically it'll take a is 5 and then adds 5 to that of b. And again, let's run this, see what you get. Now let me add this to this chart. B is equal to 5. We've just asked to plot b, so there's no point there. So let me change this to a. So you get 10. So they've added a equals a, that's 5 plus 5, which is equals 10. So similarly, you can do the multiplication as well. So then you'll get 25. So that'll be a equals a asterisk b. So let me save that and add this to the chart. There you go. So a equals 5 multiplied by 5, that is equal to 25. So these are some of the common operators. So now let's do our first if-else condition. So basic syntax for if-else condition is if, and then basically there's a condition set, and then we do what we have to do if that condition takes place. So let's say if a is greater than 7, and then let's do a tab, which is basically a syntax. So put tab here. And then let's change the value of b. So as said before, you need to put a colon if you have to change the value to a different already declared variable. So b will be equal to b plus a. So basically we'll get 10 plus 5. And then let's get out of this loop and then let's plot b. So basically what it does is it checks the condition if a is greater than 7, and if it's true then it changes the value of b and then it plots b. So let's save this and start it to the chart. So basically we get 15 because b equals 10 plus 5, which is equal to 15. So a is greater than 7 because a is 10. Now let's make a small change. Let's make a equals 5. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to go to the loop. It's going to check the if-else statement. And it's going to check is a is greater than 7. No, a is not greater than 7. So this won't be performed. So b would basically be 5. So let's save this and let's see what we get in the chart. So as you can see, b is 5. So this is a very simple if statement. So I can add brackets to this and still it gives out pretty much the same result. Now let's make a small else condition as well. So we'll have else space, there's no condition at all. We're not going to declare any condition. And again, we're going to put a tab. And instead of this, we're going to copy paste this, and instead of a we're going to add 2. So what happens is that 5 plus 2 will be 7. So either we'll get 7 or you will get the previous number. So let's save this and let's see what we get. So now we've got 7 here because a is less than 7. So this condition is not met. So the else condition is met. So then b becomes b plus 2, which becomes 7. 5 plus 2 equals 7, and then we plot b, and that's what we get. So let's do our else if condition as well, just to give you an idea. So if you put else if a is less than 7, we'll get the exact same result because a is now 5. So what we'll get will be b equals b plus 2 will be 7. So let's say a equals 3. And I'm going to put a condition a equals less than or equal to 3. Now, because I put an equal to sign and a equals 3, this condition will still be going through. This else if condition is going to go through. So now we'll get 7. So let's create another else statement. And we'll do the exact same function, but we'll just add 3 so that we can kind of get an idea of what difference this makes. So let's save this. So I'm going to explain it to you exactly how this works. So if a is greater than 7, b equals b plus a. So we'll get 8 there. A is less than or equal to 3. We get b equals b plus 2. And any other situation, b equals b plus 3, i.e. if a is between 4 and 7, we will get this function going on, this else condition going on. So in this case, a equals 3, so a is less than or equal to 3, so this else if statement is executed, and then we get 5 plus 2 equals 7. So let's change this to a equals 4. Let's see what we get. So in this case, this condition is not met, a is greater than 7. No, that's not met. This condition is not met, a is less than or equal to 3. So basically we go through this condition, which is basically 4 plus 3, which is equal to 8. So I hope you guys got a general idea of how if, else if, and else condition works. Now we're going to add a bit more complexity now. In the next one, we're going to add an and condition. So let's close this. Let's create c equals 2. So we're going to do if a is less than or equal to 3 and c is less than or equal to 2, b equals b plus 2. So let's save this, see whether it works. It does work. So what happens here is so in this else if condition, it checks a is less than or equal to 3, which it's not, because it's actually 4. But c is less than or equal to 2 because c is equal to 2. So this condition is not met. Is this condition met? No. So basically what we get is plot b and b equals 5 here. So basically we get b equals 5 here. So let's make this change here to 3. And let's see what we get. So in this case we get 7. Why did we get 7? Because a is less than or equal to 3, that condition is met. C is less than or equal to 2, that condition is also met. So this b equals b plus 2 is executed, which is 5 plus 2, which is equal to 7. So this is a very simple AND condition. So similarly we can do an OR condition. So OR condition is either one of these conditions are met and you basically get this executed. So you can actually create brackets for this, so you can really make it more simple. The coding becomes simple just as we did brackets here. So either of these two conditions are met. So let's make this a 4. Just save this, see what I get. So basically, is a less than or equal to 3? No, it's not. But since we've decided an OR condition, c is less than or equal to 2 because c equals 2. So b will be equal to b plus 2, which is equal to 7, and that's what we've got here. So there you go. So very simple if, else if. We've also discussed AND or condition as well. So this is amazing how much things you can do from the if else statements. So let's create something else. So let's, instead of plot b, let's create something called plot close. Now forget about all these things. None of these conditions are met. Now we're just going to plot the close. So basically what we got is the close of every single day drawn on a line. None of this is going to be plotted here because we haven't told them what to plot. So we're just going to plot the close. So similarly we can do the open, we can do the high, we can do the low. So that's another thing that you need to be aware with open, close, high. These are some of the things that we'll be working a lot in our coding. These are all built-in variables. So understanding that is very important in our next step in coding because we're going to do some practical examples. So let's now add a small change to what we're going to do. We're going to remove this plot open here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to plot b, but we're going to decide what b is going to be here. So if a is greater than 7, we're going to put b equals close, and else if this condition is met, we're going to put b equals open. Now let's see whether this works. No, it doesn't work because b was declared as a simple int type, cannot assign it expression of type series float. So what does this mean? So as you know, close and open has got decimal points like 0.81, 0.78. Integers on the other hand are like single digits like 4, 5, 2. So what we need to do is that we need to change the b to a float. So in order to that, we just use our built-in function in Pinescript by writing float b equals 5. So now we've decided that float b will be a float. So now if we save it and we run it, there shouldn't be an error. So there you go. So the condition if a is greater than 7, no, a is not greater than 7, a is actually 4. So this condition is also, this condition is met. No, this condition is not met. This condition is met. C is less than or equal to 2, and because it's an OR, b will be open. So this line graph would just be the open. So, and we're putting plot b there. So that's the idea of float. So it can also be a Boolean as well. So Boolean is basically true or false. So basically the only thing you need to remember is integer is numbers 4, 5, 6, 7. Boolean is true or false. That's bool. And then float is basically decimal points. And string is just basically alphabets like or letters like A, B, C, D. That's a string. So I hope you understood the difference between float and int. Let's now add a for loop. So I'm just going to delete off this if else just to make it more simple. So let's say for I equals 1, 2, 3, and then you do a tab, and then b equals b plus 1. So I'll explain to you what this works. So for is a thing called loops. So there are many loops. There's for loops, there's while loops. So now we'll discuss what a for loop is. So what a for loop does is it goes through this loop multiple times as decided by the number here. So here it is doing the loop thrice, so from 1 to 3. So first it goes b equals b plus 1, so which is 5 plus 1 will be 6, and then again it goes through 6 plus 1 equals 7, and then 7 plus 1 equals 8. So that's how the loop works. So after 3 loops it comes out of this and then it plots b. So let me save this and see what I get. So as you can see, I've got 8 here. So what if I do an addition to this? Like here the step by default is 1. So 1, 2 and 3. So how about I do by 2 steps? We'll just start with just 1 step. So it'll get exactly the same value because by default its step is 1. So you can see again it's 8. So let me change this to 5 and let's step this by 2. So what we get here is 8. So I'll explain to you how this works again. So the loop is I equals 1. So b equals b plus 1. So that's 5 plus 1. It'll be 6. And then the loop adds by 2. So now I becomes 3. So again 6 plus 1 equals 7. Next the loop again goes to 5 because the step is 2. The step before was 3. So add 3 to 2, it becomes 5, and again 7 plus 1 becomes 8. So the final value we get is 8. So let's see if I change this to 6. Now I'll get the exact same value 8 because after the 1 loop goes to 3 and then it goes to 5, then it goes to 7, but then we only have declared that it to go to only 6. So the loop doesn't go again, if that makes any sense. So that's basically for loop. So if you're taking this out, it's basically by default a step by 1, but if you actually want steps to decide on how many steps you want, you can do 2, 3, 4, whatever number you want. So this is the initial one, which is the 1, and that's the maximum one, which is including the maximum. The maximum is always included in the for loop in Pinescript. So that's about it for the for loop. It's a very simple syntax. Normally we don't use it much, but in our course there's one strategy, a bit complicated strategy, which we use the for loop. But again, it's a good thing to learn about the for loop. Try applying this wherever you can. It's just kind of good for coding. Now let's discuss a while loop. So a while loop is something new to version 5. So if anybody wants to do a while loop, this will be the way to go. So let's start with a simple while loop. So in this case, I'm going to do while a is less than, let's say, 30. A equals a plus 1. And then let's plot a. So if I save this, what I get is 30. So what happens here is a is now 4. So 4 is less than 30. So every single time this loop goes by, i.e. 30 times, because a becomes first 5 and then 6 and then 7, it waits till 30 until it becomes 30 and then plots a. So that's why you get 30 here. So what if I choose a equals 100? What I get is a equals 100 because the a never entered this loop, because this loop has a condition, and that condition was a is less than 30, but a is actually 100 here. So it skipped this loop and went straight to plot a. So now let me do something different. I'll just make it slightly different, complicated. So instead of a is equal to a plus 1, we'll also do b equals b minus 1. And let's plot b. I'm just going to give this 0. So let's see what we get. So we get here minus 25. So how do we get minus 25 here? So first a equals 0. So it checks this, and yes, a is less than 30 because a is equal to 0. So it adds a, becomes the new a becomes 1, and the new b becomes -4, and this keeps on going. So -4, -3, -2, -1, all the way to -25, because the loop repeated 30 times and we started at b as 5. So 30 minus 5 will become 25, and hence it becomes -25. So that's basically while loop. Again, I like to use if-else statements, but then some people prefer while loop as well. But again, it's a good addition for your coding skills. The other thing to look for is the break statement. So what a break statement does is that it gets you out of the while loop. So in this example, if I can change this to an if condition, if a is greater than 25, and then if I plot a, and then let me do a break here. So what happens here is the moment a reaches 25, greater than 25, it gets this break thingy, gets out of this while loop completely. So now when you plot a, what we'll get is 26. So let's give it a go and see what you get. So there you go, we get a equals 26. So a was initially 0, and the while loop gets in because a is less than 30, so a is added to 1, so it becomes 2, 3, 4, it goes all the way to 25, but once it reaches 26, this break condition is executed and it gets you out of this while loop, and then it just plots a. So let's now discuss the new addition to Pinescript version 5, which is basically the switch statement. So what the switch statement does is that it kind of is similar to the if-else condition, but then it contracts it reduces the number of lines of codes that you need to pull this off. So I'll give a simple example. So let's say if a equals to 10, then we use an operator here, b will be equal to 1. And so basically what this operator does is that it's used in user-defined functions and also in switch operator. So it checks the condition if a equals 10, and if that condition is true, then b equals 1. So basically it's like an operator to use to check these two things and then do this task here. So then let's do a equals to 20. The same principle applies. Actually, put an additional equal to that, and then b will be equal to 2, and if a equal to 30, then b is equal to 3. So now let's plot plot b, and I'm just going to leave a equals 10. So let's see what we have here. So now we've got 1 here. That's because a equals 10, b has been equal to 1. Now if I change to 20, we'll get b equals 2. There you go, so b equals 2. And if I change it to 30, we'll get b equals 3. So basically switch statement is just like the if-else statement. So in if-else statement, I'll be like, if a equals to 10, then b equals 1, and then if a equals 20, go down tab, b equals 2, and then if a equals 30, go down tab, b equals 3. So that's like a lot of line of code. So switch statement makes it quite simple. With just like 3 lines of code, you can pull this off. So that's basically the switch statement. It's very nice for you guys to code really easily. So remember these things here, this operator here, that's also an additional thing that's being taught here, and it's only used for switch statements and also for the user-defined functions. Now, since we've dealt with this operator, let's create our first function. So basically what a function does is basically does a function, like it does a job. So we need to give out instructions for the function to do certain duties. So let's create a function which inputs 2 variables. So basically all you do is this, and then you create that operators that we did for the switch. Then we go tab, and let's say sum equals x plus y divided by 2. So in a function, the the last line is basically what gets returned to the function. So whatever is the last line, that will be the operation of this function. So how do we call this function? So let's say k equals f of a comma c, and let's plot k. So what happens here is a and c gets sent to this function f of x comma y, and the sum, what it does is that it adds this a and c, which we send there, and divides by 2, and this function returns the value of the sum. So then k gets stored to the sum, and when we plot k, we get the k graph there. So here it will be 30 plus 2 divided by 2, because a is 30 and c is 2. Now let's save this and add this to the chart and see what I get. So as you can see, we'll get 16, because 32 divided by 2 is 16. Now this is just using a and c. We can change it to anything. We can do it like open comma close. So we'll basically get a graph of open plus close divided by 2 every single day since the beginning of QQQ. So we can do something else like open of 1 and open of 2. So this is where I'll talk about the arrays. So open of 1 and open of close of 1 is like yesterday's open and yesterday's close. So open of 2 will be 2 days back, the open of 2 days back, and open of 3 will be the open 3 days back. So if you do that and we save it, we'll basically get another graph which calculates the sum divided by 2. So basically that's what a function does. So you can actually do many things to the function. So before, remember, I told you like it only executes the last line is what's being returned by the function. So let's say sum of 2 is equal to sum divided by 2. Now we'll get a completely different chart, because the ones that's returned is basically the last line is what's been assigned to the function, and that's what's assigned to k, and that's what we plot. So this is pretty much the usage of function in version 5. It's almost similar to what I've seen in version 4 as well, but it's really good to use functions in your code. You can simplify the codes a lot. So when you look at most of the indicators, they're all technically functions when we call them. So let's now discuss the indicators. And as I said before, most indicators are basically functions. If this is built-in function, this is a user-defined function, we can, and we are calling this user-defined function here. Similarly, we can call the built-in function just like that. So the difference between the built-in function in version 4 as compared to version 5 is we're using something called TA, which is a technical, because it's a technical indicator. So ta.sma, which is a simple moving average, and close comma 200. So basically what this does is that it calculates the 200-day moving average and stores it to k, and when we plot k, we will basically get the 200-day moving average here. So this is a very simple example of a built-in function. So you can see the chart is separate to the chart of this one here. So let me hide all these things, the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average, to make it clear. And I want this line, this 200-day moving average, to be there on the chart. So for that, all I need to do is overlay equals true. And then let me save this. So we still have it here. I'm going to close this here, and now let me add it to the chart. And there you go. We've got the 200-day moving average plot here. Now let's see if it's as same as the indicator that I've called from using this one here. So I've got the MA200 here, so I'm just going to display it, and you can see it's exactly above the 200-day moving average that we just created from our Pinescript code. So I'm just going to hide it again. So that's a very simple 200-day moving average. We can actually do RSI as well. So I'm going to remove this overlay equals true, because for RSI it's better to have it in a completely different chart. So let's do the technical indicator RSI, and I'm going to do a 14-period RSI. Let's see what we get. So there you go. We've got the RSI here. It's a beautiful line, and that's it really. I'm just going to save this. Let me first remove this thing, because I think it's still in the same chart. And let's add this to the chart. Yep, there you go. Now we've got a separate chart all over. So just as we created a built-in user-defined function, we can just call that built-in function just by using these brackets here, just like we call f of x comma y. We're just calling RSI close comma 14, but remember to use TA. So that's a huge change in the version 4 to version 5. So there's a huge list of built-in functions which you can find in the Pinescript manual, which you can use, from ranges to pivot high, pivot low, in our RSI divergence indicator that we created in our YouTube channel. We've used the pivot high and pivot low. Similarly, we can use the highest and the lowest to get the highest value of the past n periods. So let's just do a simple example of the highest. So TA dot highest close over the past 200 periods. So basically, it calculates the highest close of the past 200. Well, let's make it 50 days and let's see what we get. So there we go. So basically, we get the highest high of the highest close of the past 50 periods. Now, if I put this overlay equals true, you can start seeing some patterns in the chart, and henceforth you can create some trading strategies. So let's see here. Yeah, so you can see the highest close. You can see there's a line here and there's a line there, and then the market breaks up. So this is a very simple example of creating a strategy based on a Donchian breakout system. Again, we have discussed this in a YouTube channel. We've created a beautiful Donchian breakout system strategy as well. So here's one of the challenge for you. Go back to that video in our YouTube channel for the Donchian breakout system, which worked in many stocks, and just try converting it to version 5. Basically, everything is going to be the same except the TA dot will be added to it as well. So there you go. That's basically a difference between a built-in function and a user-defined function. Now, remember I told you the function, when you create your own function, the value returned is the last line of the code. Now imagine if you want to get multiple return values. So in that case, what you could do is basically you can create like a square bracket and write in the two things that you want to get returned. Sum and sum of 2 will both now be returned. Now let's plot both of them. So let's write here K1 and K2. I'll just give it a bracket there. K1, K2. Just give a bracket there equals f of, since we have to pass out two values, so it could be open comma close. So open and close will be sent to the function here, and the sum of 2 and sum of 2 will be calculated, and we'll return both these values. So now let's plot K1 and K2. I'm going to remove this overlay equals true. I'm going to save this and remove this from here. Okay, there's something wrong somewhere, so let's see where we made a mistake. Line 4. Oh yeah, so the bracket here. So we're just going to save this again. Hopefully there's no errors. Now let me add this to the chart. So as you can see, we've got two lines. So one is the open and one is the close, and they both are divided by 2. And we have plot both K1 and K2. So this is the other way of returning, not the other way, the basic way of returning 2 or 3 or whatever number of values to a function. Now, since we're plotting two lines here, I want to separate this. Since the color is exactly the same, I don't like it. So I want to add colors to my line. So one thing I could do is I could write color equals color.new, and then I need to find a code for the color. So one of the things you could do is you could write color codes in Google, and there's HTML color codes here. So let's say I want this one here, 332B95, which is blue. Let's take red for a change. So this color here. So I'm going to copy this one, and then just going to go here and just going to type this one there. We have to leave a hash as well, and then comma 0, and then bracket. Now what is a 0? So 0 basically is the transparency of the color. So I'll give a simple example. I'll just save this to it, and then I'll just add this to the chart. So you can see it's two different colors here. Now K1 is the one on the top, and K2 is some other color. Now let's change this to 70. Now you'll see it's less bright or more transparent, because sometimes you want to make it, especially when the overlay it's in the chart, you want to make sure it's kind of transparent so it doesn't interfere with your reading of the chart by any means. So if I put this 100, it will be 100 transparency, so you won't see anything. So we'll just leave there to 50. So basically that's the color and color.new. You can choose whatever color you want from the color codes, and it's as simple as that. Now you can see by default the line is a simple line, so you can change the style of it by putting style equals plot.style underscore, and you can use the style. So I can use things like histogram instead, histogram. So style spelling's wrong there, so there you go, should work now. There you go. So basically you've now got a histogram for the K1. So by default it's just line. We can also do area, so we'll get a completely different graph there as well. And you can give the title to this, and you can call this title equals experiment. So now I'm going to save this. Now where will the experiment appear? So when I go to the settings, you'll see here experiment written right there. So these are all good ways to write a code, because sometimes you will come up with strategies or indicators which got lots of lines, and it's better to identify things like this. So by default it'll be plot, and by default it'll be a simple line, but otherwise you can change things by using histogram or area and many other styles available in the Pinescript library. So another thing we need to discuss is the other development in the version 5, which is the math option. So let's take a very simple example here. I'm just gonna delete this off. Just gonna write plot B. Then before that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do B equals math.cos B. So basically cos is a cosine, like a sine theta, cos theta kind of thing. So the graph I get here will be 0.28. So back in the time of the version 4, you don't have to do this math dot option. So another thing will be math of max close comma open. So basically what this does is that it takes the maximum value of these two variables, and then it gets stored to B. So let's see what we get here. So let's see the result of this one. So say for instance here on the 17th of November, the open is 469 and the close is 468.14. So obviously the open is higher than the close, so what we should get the return is 469. So that's exactly what we got. If you look at the MyScript side, it's 469. So we've got lots of things like math.min. If you can go to the Pinescript language operator, there's like a huge list of things you can do. Math.random is another one. But whatever it is, as compared to before, now it's math.option comes into play. So that's the other development of version 5. I rarely use the max, min, and cos and sine, but again, if you guys are interested in coding complicated strategies, then feel free. The other thing that I want to discuss before we start with our official one example of a strategy using all the new availabilities of the version 5 Pinescript, I want to discuss something called libraries. Now, we're not going to discuss practical example of libraries because most of the time I don't use it personally. So libraries are this thing which you can get some of the codes from other people. So for instance, I can create this code here and this function, say for example here, and share it to my profile in TradingView and make it available for the rest of the traders for the rest of the world, so they can export this function and use it for their codes. So that's the advantage of having libraries. Now, the reason why I'm not discussing this here is that, in all fairness, most of the people watching this, they're not thinking about sharing their functions that they've created or their codes that they've created. They really just want to create simple strategies or backtest strategies and try to implement that in trading, and that's their fundamental goal, to get quantitative strategies and backtest them and get money. I mean, theoretically, that's all what we're here for. So unless you are in the field of going through the libraries and sharing these libraries and exporting and importing libraries, I would not recommend go through it. But then obviously there is a section here on how to create a library in the Pinescript user manual version 5. So again, it's up to you. I'm not going to discuss this because it's just really personally a waste of time for majority of the traders out there. So let's now create our first strategy. So in order to do that, let's first open this and then create new blank strategy, and then delete off every unnecessary thing. So I'm going to delete these things off as well. So the overlay is going to be true so that we can identify the trades where it's going to be. So before I write the strategy, I'm going to explain what the strategy is going to go about. So a strategy is pretty much simple. It's going to be kind of like a mean reverting strategy. So if the close is less than the close of 10 days, lowest close of 10 days ago, we're going to go long, and when close is higher than close 10 days ago, close highest of the 10 days, we're going to close the position. And in order to filter any kind of bad rapid movements down south, like a stock market crash or something, we're going to make sure that the trades entered are closed if it's trading below the 100-day moving average. And we also will use that as the entry filter, so we are actually in an uptrend. So I'm going to write that, enter only if the market's trading above 100-day moving average. So I'm just going to go through it. This is close is the lowest close. Close is lower than the close lowest of the 10 days ago. We go long. And when the close is higher than the close, highest close of 10 days ago, then highest close 10 days ago, then we close a position. Just write the exit just to avoid some confusion. And then close all positions if trading is below 100-day moving average, and we only enter if the market's trading above the 100-day moving average. So let's use all the new available features of the Pinescript version 5 so we can really understand how it works. So that's the whole point of the strategy. So let's initiate the first buy condition. So I'm going to call it buy C1 equals close is less than. So I'm going to use that technical indicator. So this is TA.lowest. So it takes the lowest of the past 10 days. So close of yesterday, comma, from yesterday, and then 10 days ago. So we don't want the close of the present day, because then sometimes the close is the lowest, it doesn't return a true value. So what happens is that if the close is less than the lowest close of the past 10 days ago, then this buy C1 will be true, or buy C1 will be equal to 1. Now let's create the while loop so that we can store this condition as well. Only enter if the market is moving at 100-day moving average. So while close is greater than the SMA, the moving average, close comma 200. So if the close is higher than the close of the 200-day moving average, then something happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in by condition 2, so by C2 equal to 1. And then once by C2 equal to 1, then there's no point in repeating the loop, so then we can actually break that loop. Now let's create the exit condition as well. So we'll call it exit condition. Exit condition will be equal to close should be greater than TA dot highest close of 1 comma 10. So it's actually 100-day moving average, not 200-day moving average, so we'll just change that to 100-day moving average. So close is greater than TA dot highest close of 1 comma 10, and or it's an or condition, or close is less than the 100-day moving average, so that will be TA dot SMA close comma 100. So yeah, there you go. So TA dot highest close 1 comma 10, and then close is less than TA dot SMA close comma 100. So those are the exit conditions. So this exit condition will be true or equal to 1 if both or any of these conditions are met, because of the or condition we have decided there. So now let's use our switch condition to execute our trades, because switch is also an additional new characteristics in our Tradingview Pinescript. So by C1 has to be true, and by C2 has to be true. Then we use that operator that we discussed about a few minutes ago for the switch and the functions. Then strategy dot entry, we'll call it long, strategy dot long, comma strategy dot long. And then our exit condition is true. Then we do that one again, the operator that we discussed before, strategy dot close long. So there you go. I'm just going to save it as new strategy, version 5 strategy, version 5 strategy. So let's see some of the errors. It's good to find these errors and correct it so you guys learn where you're missing. So here there's a bracket missing, so line 10. So that should solve that problem. Now let's see what undeclared identifier by C2. So yeah, so this one is quite tricky, but I'll explain it to you. So you see by C2 equals 1. So what happens is that the next time the code goes through the next day, again by C2 will be equal to 1, so the trade will be executed. So we need to define by C2 as something else each time the strategy gets run, and then only change it if this condition is true. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to declare int by C2 equals some random number 5, it doesn't matter. And only when this condition is met we're going to change it. So I think that should sort out the problem. So far everything seems to be working. I'm just going to add this to the chart now, see the results that we get. It's not the best of the result. I'm going to change it to 100% equity. Let's see, we have done everything perfect. So close is below the close of 10 days ago, and the close is greater than close 100 days ago, and then the exit condition is close is the highest of the close 10 days, or close is less than close 100 days. So if the by 1 condition is true and by 2 condition is true, we enter the strategy and we exit the strategy. If this condition is true, strategy to close. So now let's see with other stocks how it has performed. So 53% in PayPal, Facebook is 183, JP Morgan 26, Procter & Gamble 623, Visa 91. So be careful with the maximum drawdowns as well. This is not really the most efficient strategy. The only reason why I created this strategy is for that you guys can understand how the version 5 Pinescript strategy backtester works. So again, Walmart is given 442, J&J 543, HD. The maximum drawdown is quite high, which I'm not quite happy about. Apple performed pretty well. Amazon again, Nvidia, INTC. So obviously we can make massive changes in these. We can change the number of days from 10 to maybe 15, or the 100-day moving average, like I did before, maybe accidentally. You can change it to 200. So let's see what happens if we make it, change it to 200. The result might completely be different. We might get more of a profit. So INTC 249.5, 1074 in Amazon. But again, we have sacrificed a drawdown for it. We've got a bigger returns in some of these stocks, but then the drawdowns has gone up as well. So we need to really find out where we stand in our risk profile in deciding what should be our maximum drawdown we can take on these trades. So let's go deep into the strategy tester so you guys can understand what goes on here. So one of the things that should be noted is that the Tradingview Pinescript, unlike other platforms, don't take into account the open long position. So if there's an open long position here, unfortunately we don't have an open long position. Let's find somewhere where we have an open long. I think Apple might have an open long. Oh, it just closed recently. So I can't find it. Okay, here, there you go. So here there's on the 9th of November in JP Morgan Chase, we went long on 10th of November. So if I scroll down below, you'll see the market is still in a position. So this will not be reflected on the net profit section. So that's one of the red flags of the Pinescript trading. I hope maybe in their next version they might adapt to it. This is one area, the strategy tester analyzer section, where they really need to improve on. But otherwise, with the respect to performance summary and everything, you get to know practically every details. So if I go to Apple here, you can see the gross profit and gross loss, and then the Sharpe ratios and the buy and hold return. So buy and hold return is basically calculated when the stock started. So I had a few emails a long time ago saying that some of the strategies don't beat buy and hold of the specific stock, and it won't, because the stock was listed at don't know, penny stocks basically. So it's like 0.4 or 0.5 and somewhere in those ranges, and then obviously it's gone now to 150. So the return is like substantial, the return is like huge, and technically you can't buy all the stocks in the world which are being listed now. So you can't compare any strategy with the buy and hold return of the specific stock. But on the other hand, you can compare your portfolio with the buy and hold return of SPY. So how did SPY perform well as compared to your portfolio? That's what people are always looking for. Did you beat the market? That did you beat the market is basically saying, did you beat the S&P 500 returns this year? And that's your target, that's your goal, to beat the S&P 500 return. Most of the time S&P 500 return gives you some 5 to 10% return every year on average. So if you are getting more than 10%, like 15% on your portfolio returns every year, or 20% of portfolio returns every year now, that makes you a successful trader. Then you're looking into that Warren Buffett kind of style of returns. So that's what we do here. We actually backtest our strategies and then place it on multiple stocks, and then some of the stocks it performs well, like for example Apple, it performs well. Some of the stock it performs just average, but going through this rough individually gives us a general idea. So Tradingview does not have portfolio backtesting either, which is also again another thing that Tradingview might want to add in future. So again, the other thing to look for is here average winning trade to average losing trade, which I look a lot. So because this is a mean reverting strategy, normally you will have an average win and average lose trade to be quite close to each other. It'll be similar. But if you're following a trend following kind of a strategy, then most likely you need to have an average winning trade, which is like 2:1 or 3:1 higher than the average losing trade. So this is basically the real difference between a mean reverting strategy and a trend following strategy. I'll go deep into it in the course where I discuss multiple trend following strategies and multiple mean reverting strategies. But this is just an example, like I said before, just an example for us to get used to the Pinescript version 5. Here I've used the while loop, and here I've used the switch statement as well. So if it wasn't this, my lines of code would have gone amazingly high. I will have to use if else statement here and then if else statement for each. So this here itself will be like 4 or 5 lines of code, and then again this one here again will be 4 or 5 lines of code. So the codes are now more easy to write, more simple now. So within just, this is just 19 lines of code and I've created a pretty good decent strategy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video series on version 5 Pinescript. So I've gone through everything from how to write some basic codes from indicators all the way to strategy. So feel free to ask me any questions, the email or even the comment section, and I will write it down. But as always, the Pinescript library is a great tool for you guys to learn if you want to have any complicated strategies in it. But at the end of the day, I find it more simple strategy seems to work more efficient than anything else. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great day.